Hi, and welcome to Two CPAs and the Mic, the podcast where we talk tax, finance, and all things related to business. Whether you're a business owner, working professional, or someone who wants to start a career in accounting, this is the podcast for you. Hosted by CCK Strategies partners Jeff Frable and Sara, we dive into relevant business and tax matters with working professionals to make these topics less intimidating, relatable, and dare we say fun? Let's get down to business.
Welcome back to another episode of Two CPAs and the Mic. Like always, we are here to convey relevant business and tax topics for entrepreneurial business owners and other professionals, whether or not they're in the tax and accounting profession. And we're also here to communicate practical information without the stuffiness and the jargon that's stereotypical of our industry. We have a great episode for you today. We are going to talk about executive coaching and achieving optimal performance. We have an amazing guest on the mic today. But before we do, again, I am Jeff Frable. I've been a partner with CCK Strategies for 20 years, have been here 25. And my amazing co-host, hey, Maze.
Hey, Frable. I'm Sara. I have been with CCK for 18 years and a partner for a handful of months.
Oh, so we're changing from 2 months or 3 months to a handful.
It's a handful now.
That's
yes.
Wonderful. And Christy, good morning, Christy Porter.
Good morning. I'm Christy Porter with CCK. I'm the Director of Business Growth and Development.
And you have had a crazy week, haven't you? You had a lot of driving, a lot of family time. So we're thankful you're here.
Thank you. Thank you.
And all together. Y'all are all together now.
For those of you that may be joining us for the first time, Christy kind of keeps us in line. She's kind of our on-air producer and makes sure we're communicating what we need to be communicating. So thank you very much. But like I said,
mom, some might say professional mom.
Professional mom, I'll take that. Yeah. PM and Happy Mother's Day is actually coming up. This won't drop around Mother's Day, but Mother's Day is this weekend. So happy Mother's Day to you two ladies. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, let's get started. We have a great guest on today. We have Matt Granados with Life Pulse. Matt is just an amazing individual. I'm going to let him introduce himself. But one of the things we like to do on this show, Matt, is we like to talk about how, in essence, God has connected the dots to bring our guests on for this particular moment. And there's a really cool story with you. And in full transparency, we have been working together for almost 3 years. And when we met at you were doing a presentation about Life Pulse and optimal performance and things of that nature. And to be very honest and vulnerable, I was in a bad spot. I was kind of wondering if I wanted to continue my career in accounting and tax and what my life's purpose was, all those things that 50-year-old men go through. And I believe that our connection was divinely appointed. We started talking and I said, I just need to start winning in some areas of my life. And that was 3 years ago. And you've been a very extremely instrumental in some things I've been going through the last several years. So welcome to the show, Matt. We're glad to have you. As we get started, before we get started in some of these details, let's tell us who Matt is. Tell us about the Life Pulse story. Don't forget to include the Iron Man story, because I love that story. And what you're doing with Life Pulse today.
Yeah, first and foremost, as you guys are praying us in and getting us involved, I think one of the things that I forget to introduce myself as when I get to introduce myself is as an adopted child of God, right? So all the things that you hear, if you hear something I say like, man, that was good. No, that was not from me, right? Like I am a mess. And people will ask the question with Life Pulse, who am I and why am I here? This whole thing started by accident. Like I was a train wreck. I was such a big train wreck that there was no product out there that could help me, right? I tried them all. And eventually I just said, you know what? I'm going to have to make my own because I'm a little too crazy to handle the necessary amount of structure that I need and the necessary amount of flexibility that I need. And what I've come to find is there is a good balance of that. And that's how we started Life Pulse, right? So we started Life Pulse, also married to my wife, Maria, and she's part of this. It's actually her fault if we were going to point fingers, because she came to me and she said, Matt, I knew marrying you was going to be crazy, but I didn't realize it was going to be this crazy. Like, you're insane, right? You got a new idea every other day. I'm trying to support you, but like, I don't know where your head is. And I looked at her and I was like, oh, me neither. So what I do is I ask myself these 9 questions every single week before I get my week started. And she looked at me and she's like, whoa, that's interesting. Like, can I do that with you? And I swear to this day, it's the sexiest thing anyone's ever said to me. Right? Like, can I use your system to help me connect better with you? I was like, this is why God gave us wives, right? We need it bad. So all that being said, we started doing it together. And I was amazed at how much I didn't know the person I'm supposed to know most. I didn't know what she wanted. I didn't know what I was supposed to do for her. I assumed I was doing my job to provide for her, which in my opinion was go hunt, bring back meat, put meat on the table, right? That was what I thought my definition of provision was. But when I was challenged by a mentor of mine to ask her what her definition was, it was wildly different. And I was amazed at how disconnected I was with her. So I've learned to lean into conviction when it hits me as hard as I possibly can. And if I lean in hard enough, I turn towards correction versus condemnation. So it's a huge, just different mindset of what I think a lot of us do is we back away from conviction. Like, whoa, I don't like this. I don't like pointing out what my issue is, but I love it. It's like a cleansing process, right? To get a pure heart. So as we have this conversation, I'm sitting there going, I don't understand why I'm having this disconnect with her. I wonder who else I'm not connected with. So I brought the same 9 questions and gave them to our assistant. I brought the same 9 questions, brought it to our sales team, to our warehouse team. Every person I was in contact with, I was giving these 9 questions to. And I was wrong on everybody. I knew nothing of what was going on in anyone in my life. What eventually happened was it got in the hands of a large financial institution, one of the largest in the world. And they brought us in and they said, hey, this little planner thing you have, it solves our biggest personnel problem. Will you come and talk with us? So we went in and talked with them. The reality of that was the fact that they can't connect their corporate desired metrics with their individuals' desired lifestyles. And because of that, I asked them, I said, is this a problem only you have? They said, no, this is a problem everyone has that's at our size. This is Fortune 500 and above. That was 2017. I don't know if you guys remember, but this thing called COVID happened. Exactly. And everyone started seeing the cracks in their business. And that's what I saw COVID do. Yes, there was the health part that I don't mess with that. That was a terrible situation. But the societal impact and the workplace impact is something we are still feeling and will continue to feel, I think, I'd have to say forever until something else reshapes it. And in that, it was the fact that we lost structure, we lost rhythm. And it wasn't that COVID caused our businesses to be harder to deal with. It's that COVID exposed the gaps. COVID maximized the issues that we were dealing with. Now, when you have all your people locked in cubicles next to you and you can see what work they're doing, they can pretend like they're working, but you don't get as frustrated. Now, if they're not on site, it becomes a whole issue. So as we build this out, I'll never forget, I got out of that meeting, I called Maria and I said, hey, remember that time you told me we do too much and you told me I'm a little too crazy and we have too much on our plate and you want to support? I said, well, congratulations. You are the new CEO and founder of a company. We don't know what it's called yet. And if you look us up today, Maria is still the owner of Lightpulse. I'm just the puppet employee who gets to run around. So that's who we are. We have 3 amazing kids, Natalie, which you will definitely hear about at some point in this conversation based on the lessons we've learned, but also Ziggy, Zach, but you'll hear him as Ziggy, and Teddy, who are our 2 sons that you will also hear, because what we teach at Lightpulse transcends works. We're not just focusing on how do you fix the employer. We are people offering professional services, not professional services pretending to be people. And we have to remember that as we're dealing with people in the workplace. So long intro. That's who we are.
Good intro.
Lightpulse is. And again, we're very grateful to be here. We love what CCK is doing. We work with a lot of companies and we don't love all of them. I'll just be honest with you. I love CCK's culture, what the leadership team has done, where the partners sit. And again, I've gotten to meet almost all of you at some point who was at our event. We're just grateful for what you guys are doing.
Right. Well, Matt, tell us a little bit about the industries and the type of companies that you work with, from large to small. Who do you work with?
Yeah. So we've worked with all of them. That's all I could say. It's the worst marketing strategy ever, right? It's like, if you don't niche yourself, you're going to lose. Well, guess we can't. Our niche is people. Mm-hmm. We solve people problems. That's what we do. And what we found is we like to call ourselves industry agnostic. It doesn't matter what your industry is, as long as there's people involved. But we've worked with people ranging from Google and Twitter and the United States Air Force and Uber, large healthcare companies, financial companies. We've worked with industries ranging in the finance space, from accountants to financial advisors to lawyers. We've worked with every type of industry, healthcare providers, blue collar, white collar, tech, non-tech, you name it. It doesn't matter. And here's the reason why, is people aren't the problem. People have problems. And that's why we have people problems. When we got this company, we were asked to do something we got so many different companies would come through and give us different symptoms they were dealing with. And we would offer the same solution, and it solved all of them. One came to us with workload issues. One came to us with work-life balance issues. One came to us with communication issues, management issues. We call them the Amazon top 10. And what happens is the majority of us, when it comes to solving problems, we fail, not because we're not able to solve the problem, but we go after the wrong thing. I call this symptomatic solutions, right? Symptomatic solutions is something that you hear in the healthcare profession. When someone's kind of in a palliative care, meaning, hey, they're at the end of their life, we're going to offer symptomatic solutions. We're going to make this easier, but we can't solve it. My daughter, Natalie, has a rare muscular condition, genetic mutation, 17th in the world, youngest by far, very, very drastic disease that causes her muscles not to work. So she's wheelchair bound. Physically, just gravity is her worst enemy. We get offered a lot of symptomatic solutions, and it drives me nuts. Symptomatic solutions when you solve for the symptom. If you solve for the symptom, you're not going to get the result you want. We search for the root cause. So, for example, I break my arm, that bone pops out. I'm sitting there going, hey, Jeff, Sara, Christy, can you do me a favor? The pain is excruciating. Can you help me? So you guys, symptomatic solutions, you guys offer me pain meds. Yes, takes care of the pain, but it doesn't solve the problem. What needs to happen is reset the bone, which also hurts. So thank you for the pain meds. And then what will happen is humans, like the bone, have been built in a very specific way that if you fix the root cause of the issue, they will adapt back to the correct position they're supposed to be in. So what we were doing was, as we were getting those symptomatic issues getting thrown at us, we were offering a root cause solution, which is the Life Pulse methodology. And the results were astronomical. People were changing, were being transformed, and we're back where they should be because we solved the root cause issue.
So one of the questions I was going to ask you, Matt, is if you see different types of characteristics of professionals in other industries. But I guess the ultimate answer to that is people are people, and they have the same. They have the same issues. And so I know I struggle with comparability, and I think I'm the only one that thinks this way and feels this way. But the answer to that is no, you're not. You're just pretty normal, right?
Accountants are a little weird, just to be honest with you. No, I'm totally joking because I know who you are listening. No,
we are weird.
Here's what I'll say. On the surface, everyone's different. In the core, we're all the same. We all have one purpose. We were brought here for one specific reason, right? We all have individual callings, but we all have one specific identity of why we were a purpose, the reason for which something exists. And that's what we get to. Now, because everyone's calling is individualized, and then it goes one level deeper into assignment of how you're to live out your calling in this moment, right? As an accountant, as an Uber driver, as a consultant, whatever it is. That is when we get people to experience complete fulfillment and experience that level of overdrive. So to answer your question, Jeff, every person is wildly different if you stay at the surface. And that's the issue with society today, is we stay at the surface. We fix the pain, the symptom. With that being said, it's similar to when companies, I find, or people try to fix problems and they go, well, we need to train more. We need more training. We need them to know how to do their job better. And I'm sitting there going, no, they know how to do their job. The tactical side of doing the job is rarely ever the issue. If so, you have a bad hiring process. And I think the culture gurus have beaten that out of us, that hiring is important. We need to be careful who we hire. The problem is how do we get that version of that person we hired to show up every single day? And from an individual's perspective, how do I show up every single day as that person that was in the interview that made the agreement on here's what I'm going to do for the firm as I come in? So yes, everyone's different. Blue collar versus white collar, wildly different, right? I have to be careful what I wear. If I'm going in a blue collar company wearing a suit, doesn't end well. I've had times where I'm like, hey, give me one of your sweatshirts. Like we're gonna bring this down. So I've worn a sweatshirt with dress pants because the rest of the guys were sitting there going, first off, why are you wearing white? Second off, what are those things in the front of your chest? They're called buttons, right? They haven't seen those in that state. So it's different every time, but yes, core is the same, and that's what we focus on.
So as far as Life Pulse goes, before we kind of dig deeper into the Life Pulse process, I guess the difference between what you do versus what others may do is that you really get in and treat the root cause versus just dealing with some of the symptoms. Is that reasonable?
Yeah, that would be. And the other thing is we take the time to understand what are you really doing and where are you trying to go? And then we customize the solution for what you're trying to do, not force you into our solution. So there's two elements of it that make us, I think, drastically different. For example, we use the organization's metrics, or we'll use your metrics. If you're trying to, Jeff, with you run a certain race at a certain pace, then that's the metric. I'm not going to sit here and go, well, that's not a good metric. We're going to use something I'm more comfortable proving my system works. No. We want to use your metrics, what's worked for you in the past. How do we enhance that and level that up to that optimal level of performance?
Excellent. Okay, so the Life Pulse process has 4 or 5 steps to it, and if we have the opportunity, let's just kind of walk through those so you can explain what you do, how you do it, why it's beneficial.
Yep.
The process from understood to understand. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, everything we do is all about bridging gaps, right? This is the gap that we will bridge. These are 5 gaps that we bridge with every single person we work with if they truly want to hit that highest level of optimal performance. So what you said was from understood to understand. People naturally want to be understood. Good leaders focus on being able to understand. In our society, we have confused the fact that we need to agree in order to understand. That's not accurate. I can speak to someone who has completely different political views and understand where they're coming from if I try to. If I'm trying to understand, do I agree with them or not, I can easily get into a conflict. But if we were to take a step back and go, okay, let's take the time to understand what's going on. In that understanding, usually it's like a 30-day discovery process. In that understanding, we will have conversations that have nothing to do with life goals, because it has nothing to do with life goals. It has everything to do with the person we're working with or the organization we're working with. What's working? What's not working? What do you like? What don't you like? What happens if nothing changes? How long are you going to stay in here? Is this a long-term play or a short-term play? Do you like your marriage or do you not like your marriage, right? Do you want to be healthy or do you just not care? Those are things we need to know if we're ever going to help someone. I think about it as like how people try to defend their political belief, their religion, whatever point you're trying to keep. We all have strong opinions that need to be loosely held, which means if I say something and Sara, you're able to push back and say, hey, Matt, here's what I think is wrong with that. I have to be very open and willing, right, to be able to defend my stance, right? We want to get biblically, both gently and with respect. Gently, with gentleness and with gentle. I'm making a word now.
You are.
with gentleness and respect. And the only way you can do that is by following that second commandment to love others as yourself. And with that, I need to know who Jeff is or Christy is or Sara or whichever who CCK is as a company before I can ever try to be understood.
So Matt,
focus on understanding.
Yeah. I mean, those are trying to understand somebody is you're digging into their vulnerability. How do you break that barrier to get them to be vulnerable, especially in that discovery process when you're just getting to know somebody?
Yeah, there's a mentor of mine who has this line that I love. It's be interested, not interesting. Ask questions and don't try to add yours to it. Like that's what I find we all tend to do. We want to be part of the conversation. So we want to add value to the conversation. And if we want to talk about some of the best leaders in the world, they were great at asking questions. Be interested, not interesting. If you're the one talking about yourself, you've lost the conversation. The other person is not experiencing what they can experience by having that interaction with you. So ask questions, number one. And when you ask the question, think, be interested in what they're talking about. If I'm talking with someone and they're talking about, let's just say opera, I don't like the opera. I have no interest in the opera. That's a choice, because I can tell you if I knew someone who was in the opera, I would pay attention to it. We have a chapter in our book in Motivate the Unmotivated that goes into this a little. So it's a great point, Sara. But I sit there and go, what would you do if you paid for tickets for, let's just say, a soccer game? And when you got to the game, it was cold out, it was wet out, it was raining out. You couldn't really see very well. And the players were literally just running around in circles, scoring on their own net, not knowing what's going on. Would you be excited about that game? Would you enjoy that game? The answer is not at all.
No.
Unless that was your 4-year-old kid playing on the field.
Right. Put it in context.
Exactly. Yep. So what I realized was focus and interest is a choice. And we selfishly go, yeah, I'm not into that stuff. So therefore we can't relate. And there's no, I'm into what Jeff's going to pay. What's Jeff like? Jeff loves to run. I hate running. I hate every second of it. But when I get to hear Jeff talk about it, I'm interested because he comes alive. And that's where connection happens.
Matt, I have a question. And it's really, if this question could be asked in all 4 stages, I'm gonna dive into it in the understanding, because you're used to working with successful people. And successful people are high achieving. They've got a way to do it. This process of discovery, you guys mentioned it earlier, it's a vulnerable state.
Yeah.
If I'm going to use myself as an example, if I'm working with a dietitian and we're going into discovery, I'm patient with it for a bit, but then I'm ready.
Yeah.
Well, just give me the answers. Just tell me, give me some structure. And it's, again, if this is an early question, you can put it off till later. But it sounds like this would be the biggest challenge to get people to chill out a little bit and follow the process.
Yeah. So we take it as a dual approach. I want people to have things they do while we're doing the discovery. So that way the cognitive side of them, am I doing something? Yeah, sure, you're doing something. Here's your planner, fill out your planner, understand what's going on, watch these videos. If you go through our coaching call, there's always something you could be doing. You don't necessarily have to, because I don't want to overwhelm someone, but there's always something you could be doing. Because of that, it lets the busyness that we think we need, which is really just a dopamine kick because we aren't able to be at rest as humans. We've kind of lost that ability. So because of that, I'll give you something that you're doing, but the real action we're taking during the discovery is what's going on. So let's talk about the nutritionist, right? The way we would do that is the fact that, hey, here's what I want you to start doing. I want you to find, pay attention whenever you eat broccoli, get back to me on how that's working. Just how does it feel when you eat broccoli? I want you just to let me know next time you eat broccoli. Just pay attention to that. Now, what I'm going to do is find out what else is going on. What's wrong with, what's your thoughts on food? How are you interacting with it? What's your relationship with it? Is it a healthy relationship, an unhealthy relationship? Is this a mental issue or is this a physical issue, right? There's different levels of that. So I have the ability to do the discovery while I give you simple tasks that are not just meaningless. They're not mundane. They are purposeful. They are helpful, but they're not actually getting you to the end result that we're looking for. It's getting you ready to start the process. So you're doing things, getting ready for the process that are actively there. It's like if I was to say, hey, we're going to work out. Do me a favor, the next week or so, look at shoes. And I want you to send me the top 3 pairs of shoes you think are going to work best for you to do this. That has nothing to do with your physical journey. It's just giving you something to stay active as you're doing it. People want to be busy, but if you feel it is a sin to not be busy, you're serving the wrong master. And that's what we have to realize as we take a step back. So I don't know if that answers your question fully, Christy, but yeah, it's that discovery process is a hard part, but it's the most important part because if we don't have a good trajectory of takeoff, there's no way we land where we need to go.
Well, I would say the other part of that that's important is especially if your client allows you to go to a deeper level, it allows you some insight as to when they may be BSing you and when they're not BSing you, I would imagine.
Well, don't give away all my secrets, Jeff. Stop talking. Yeah, but that's the reality. I can tell when Jeff's excited. I can tell when Jeff's not excited. It takes about 4 words of Jeff to say in the beginning of the conversation because we took the time in the beginning to understand it. That I know, hey, I can actually be pretty direct with him, or this is not a direct phone call, right? Like this is a time where like we're just going to kind of nurture and make it through this because it's a tough week. It's not my job as a coach to beat you up. A lot of coaches think that's what happens. When you work with the high level of performers, which honestly, every person can easily get to the optimal performance level. That is a natural instinct we have. The high level stuff we'll get to in a second is destroying culture to begin with, which is why I'm not liked in many circles. But all that being said, we need to make sure that individuals are being dealt with in the moment they're in based on where they're trying to go. And that's why our whole philosophy is where are you now? Where do you want to go? And let's help develop the path as we're walking along that path.
Great words. Okay, let's talk about the LP planner and going from sporadic to perpetual development.
Yeah, so we all as humans have sporadic development. Sporadic development is short-term intensity versus long-term consistency. There's a book called Atomic Habits. That's a fantastic book. It's probably my favorite book that's come out more recently. It's actually an older book now, but that talks about this, right? When we have intense short bursts of focus, that's things like I'm going to join the gym this year. Those are called New Year's resolutions, right? By the second week of January, the gym's back to normal, right? That's not what we want. We want perpetual development. Now, this concept that we've developed comes from the concept of perpetual energy, right? Where you are able to find a way to create energy as you're using energy. So therefore, you never need to go back to a new source of energy. The way we do this is by combining the word intention and structure. You see, intention, we all have. We all have intention. Some of you listening to this podcast, you have true intention to do what we're saying and go implement it. Intention is the catalyst to fulfillment. Without intention, I've never seen someone accidentally experience fulfillment. It doesn't happen by accident. Now, they might get lucky, they might win the lottery, but not true fulfillment. So we all have intention. What I found we need a structure that re-engages intention. So you have intention, the structure, it re-engages intention to do the structure, which re-engages intention to do the structure, which keeps you in alignment with what it is you truly have been called here to do. That is what the LP does. It's 9 questions, pen and paper planner. And yes, you can get a digital version. Reach out to us. Everyone knows, can I get a digital version? You can. It just doesn't work as well. So sure, it's in your phone, but you don't use half the productivity apps you have on your phone anyway. So the goal is to use it, but it goes from intention to structure by asking 9 questions to yourself. It's again, it takes probably about 30 minutes to set up. Usually we do it on Friday, and at noon, we do open calls for anyone to jump on the plan with us from noon to 12 to 12:30 Central Standard Time. But anytime to do it, then every night before you go to bed, you do what we call PTT. That's plan tomorrow today. You do that. This is a total of 20 minutes at the beginning of the week, 5 minutes for the 5 days of the week. What we are finding is individuals who do this, combine intention and structure, get an extra 15 hours of productivity every single week. And it's not that hard. It just takes intention.
And 15 hours a week adds up to how many a year, Matt?
So 15 hours a week, you guys are the accountants.
Well, I know you do this in your presentation.
It's an extra month every single, or an extra weekend every single month. I'm sorry, an extra month every single year. So you got 13 months in a 12-month calendar. Most people are like, man, I'd go take a vacation. Most likely you wouldn't if you're stuck in that busy cycle. What you would do with 13 months is work an extra month. And that's why we realize there's a root cause issue, not a symptomatic issue. There's a causality that's happening behind the scenes that we have to address.
Right. Okay. Taking us from being aware to self-aware, you kind of already addressed that in the discovery process. Is there anything else additional that we need to talk about there?
Yeah. And the reason why this is the discovery process is what's making me as the assistant aware of what's going on. The self-aware versus unaware has to do with the person. Harvard Business Review did an amazing study that says that 95% of the people they would ask says they are self-aware. When they did some more studying, they found only about 10 to 14% of them are, which means the majority of us think we're aware, but we're not. The reality is we don't know what we don't know. So when you come into the concept that, hey, there's a better chance I'm being deceived than discerning, there's a better chance that I'm being wrong than right. If there's a humility level of like, hey, I've been wrong at least once in my life, I could be wrong here. It opens up a conversation that really fixes the issue. If you don't think you're wrong, you have no need for a solution. And because of that, you're not going to listen to it. So we have this technique in Bridging the Gap that's called expose, bridge, sustain, right? If we don't expose the gap, you're not going to build the bridge. Like, would you build a bridge if there was nothing to bridge over? No. So we have to have the conversation and say, hey, Jeff, here's something I see that you're running into. But what I like to do is do it through self-awareness. So through our conversations, Jeff, the goal is that you come and go, actually, here's what's going on in my physical journey. Here's what's going on in my internal journey. Professionally, here's what the issue is, man. I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. When I get people to tell me that, it's golden because I know our solutions can get them from where they are to where they want to go. But if they don't see the gap, there's no need for it. You want to get biblical on this? Look at how Jesus introduces himself to people in every single part of the Bible when they're in sin. He doesn't ignore it. He calls it out. He exposes it. He bridges it as himself, which that makes it a little easier for him. And then the way you sustain it, which we do through tools and systems and structure, he says you sustain that by abiding in him. So it's the same concept, expose, bridge, sustain. That's how we focus when we go to bridge these gaps.
So when you bridge the gaps, you work into these value-based gap goals. And I want to talk a little bit about those because I think that was what in your process that I experienced, that was the aha moment early on. And so talk a little bit. I mean, I'm assuming that there's many people that are listening to this episode thinking, I've done goals before. I know you write them down because that makes them more effective. But talk a little bit about the process you all go through to develop these goals, the goals that you develop on a quarterly basis, and what makes them more effective.
Yeah, so this is all about bridging the gap from no integrity to natural integrity. I don't care what you show to others. Humans naturally are born with this thing called integrity, meaning we like to do what we say we are going to do. We do not like to go against our word. We definitely don't like it when other people go against their word. I think we all can relate to that. But we also have that internal thought in ourselves. That's why signing your signature used to mean something, because people, when they sign it, they would live up to it. What's happened recently is people assume that's not a natural thing, but it still is. So we leverage that, right? We leverage that natural integrity, and we create these things that we call value-based gap goals, VBGG. This started because a client of ours has about 70,000+ employees. And they're like, well, how are you going to put this through our whole company? I'm like, holy smokes. However you need me to, right? Like 75,000 employees, I pay per employee. I get paid per employee. I'm in. Let's have a conversation. So I had to sit back and think on, how do I coach people individually that I could then offer in a form of a goal to get them where they want to go? And that's where this concept of value-based gap goals came in. Now, before you freak out, if you've ever gone to a goal setting seminar, every piece of the traditional goal setting tool, from first person, present tense, positive, SMART goals, everything about that is put in place in these goals. The way a value-based gap goal works is it's because I am core value, right? We lean on the core value. By date, I overcome roadblock in order to bridge the gap from where I am to where I want to go to experience a personal benefit. Now, I'm going to break these down for you real quick. Core value, that's just who you are as a person. Core values are not ambitions. A lot of companies mess that up. A lot of people mess it up. That's why they don't value core values. Core values are an external showing of who you are internally. So for example, if I am obesely overweight and I was to come to you and say, one of my core values is health, I would have to say that's probably not a core value. That's likely an ambition of yours. If we have a company that treats our people like garbage and we say our core value is people first, no, it's kind of an ambition. You're not actually living it out. If you talk to a client, right, or a CCK, this is why I love it. When I see you guys, you live out the core values. Now, is there times where things go that you could say, well, this one time we didn't? No, people mess up. There's issues that happen all the time. But in the whole, you live out the core values. It shouldn't be a surprise to you. So we leverage the core value. We get the date. So we have an endpoint. We get the roadblock. The roadblock is what's stopping you from getting there. If I don't get the roadblock in the beginning, it turns into an excuse at the end. We then bridge the gap from where you are. We call that your benchmark. This is where I am. I'm at 200 pounds. I want to get to 190, or I want to get to 210, whichever way you want to go. That's where I want to go to where I want to be. That's bridging the gap. And then to experience personal benefit. What is the reason I'm doing this? If your reason for doing this is, well, I want to increase the company's P&L, outside of maybe a partner who benefits from that, that's not a personal benefit of yours. I love the team effort. I love the mindset, but what's the personal benefit if the company does well? Focus on that. There's a level of personal desire that is okay to use as long as it's in alignment with what we've been called to do, right? And again, where that calling comes is from your identity and so on, up to who God is. So all of that being said, that's how a value-based gap goal works. Now, I use them to motivate myself and motivate others. So we do coaching one-on-one, but we also build out these 90-day goal rushes for people, which are just, hey, here's your value, here's your VBGGs for the next 90 days. Go take them on yourself. The way I motivate myself and others through this is the core value and the personal benefit is how I motivate people. The middle part is how I coach. Hey, how can we overcome the roadblock? Where are you? The progress from where you want to go to where you want to be. And that's how I can help coach not only others, but also myself as I use these VBGGs to get where I feel called to go.
And it was that core value component and the benefit component that stuck out to me the most, especially the core value, where it was because I am patient, because I am loving, because I am loyal, because I am this or that. And then I'll never forget the conversation. We went through my first set of goals and I kept saying, I will. And you said, will is not in that statement. And I read it 3 or 4 times with will. And you said, that's because that's something you want to do. It doesn't reflect that you do it versus you will do it. There's a big difference there.
Yeah. So the core values, I say supercharge your goal. What you're talking about is first person present tense. If you're talking about a goal in the future, your subconscious mind doesn't go to work on it, right? There's a way we were built that I want to leverage. I don't want to go against the way we were built. Now, this isn't, manifestation or anything like that, because that is not how we were built. And we don't have the ability to do that. Now, visualization is different than manifestation. I want to make that very clear. The self-growth world, which I despise, has totally bastardized that and has made it confusing. Visualizing, hey, I want to see this happen. I want to work towards this. I want to focus on this. I want to put the work in to do this. That is where we need to go. But the will, I will do this. Your subconscious mind will not act on it until it is doing it. It reserves all of its energy for only when it's needed.
So when we do these goals and we do you mentioned the goal rush, the goal of that process is to have progress over perfection.
Yes.
Is that not right?
Yeah. So the term progress over perfection is another term that's used all over the place. And I love it because it's true, as long as you can quantify the progress. A lot of people use it as an excuse. Well, progress over perfection. We didn't hit that goal. Well, that's a reason. That's not an excuse. We can't accept that as an excuse. Now let's figure out, why did we not hit that goal? Why did we not get that end result? Was it that the end result was too big? Was it unrealistic? Was it not what we really need to do? Or are we sitting here going, well, I'm just going to lean on the fact that I made some progress? Well, the goal wasn't to make progress, but in the middle of from where I am to where I want to go, when we can see the progress and we can quantify the progress, hey, I'm 10%, I'm 15%, I'm 20%, I'm still 20%, I'm still 20%, right? We want to see when we hit these plateaus so we can then readjust our actions. See, goals are created by us, and we never should think the creation should control the creator. That's in all areas of life. So people ask, like, well, when do I change a goal? We change goals with clients when we hit a plateau and we're acting in a certain way, we're not moving towards the direction we're supposed to go. We got to change what we're doing. Either our actions or the goal needs to change. We also change a goal if situationally that goal was a good goal yesterday, but is not a good goal for tomorrow.
It's interesting hearing about the verb, you guys. I'm thinking about the way that Matt is using will and do in the process. It sounds like, wow, that's minimal. It's huge.
Can I ask a question on that? Because coming from somebody, you were talking about changing goals. If you've plateaued, It's okay to change a goal. And what a good goal for today may not be a good goal for tomorrow. How do you talk through somebody who is all about winning and may feel like a failure if you have to change that goal?
Ooh, goodness, Sara. Wow. Okay,
Right?
we're going
That's
there.
good.
Let's go. Let's go.
All right. So we're going to go to the little blue bird twin, right?
Okay.
When I was working with them, there was an individual I was working with who opened my eyes to the fact that his entire life has been all focused on the end result and never the process. And when we started working together, he saw the value of the process. We in our lives have been told it's all about the achievement. So let's talk about the Ironman, right? I'll bring it up here, Jeff, for you, right? So the Ironman came to us because Maria looked at me and said, hey, you teach these goal things, but like stay away from the physical goals. Like I got that covered. Maria loves working out. I hate working out. It's an ongoing thing. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do what any man would do is I'm going to Google the hardest thing to do. And an Ironman popped up. So I signed up for it, having no clue what it was. I just knew that if it's stubbornness and discipline, I can make that work. Right. So I flipped the computer around. I was like, here we go, going to Chattanooga to run the Ironman. She's like, what? Like, do you even know what that is? I'm like, I'll find out soon. So get to the Ironman. We survived the Ironman. The bike is sold before the Ironman is over. Like I was done. I knew this was it. Like, I'm just going to do it to say, I got you. Again, bad motivation, great experience. Let's put it that way, right? Horrible motive, great experience. I always ask people, how long does it take to cross the finish line? And people are like, oh, I don't know, 15 hours, 17 hours. Right? It shows me how much they think I'm fit or not based on the time they say. But the answer is it's an instant. That achievement is an instant that has absolutely no value without the rest of the race.
Yeah.
Anyone can cross the finish line of an Ironman. That's my daughter in a wheelchair can cross the finish line of an Ironman. But can you go from the start to the finish? Successful people fall trap to the desire to be a high performer. Everything we do is to bring high performers to the next level. Most high performers don't know there is a next level. High performance is when you are operating to get high results at an unsustainable pace compared to others. Optimal performers get the same high results at a sustainable pace compared to one's own ability or compared to self. So when we work with people who are high performers, which is the majority of the people who come in, we have them realize that the goal is not just to work hard. Working hard has been shown as like, that's as if that's the prize. If I worked hard, I did well. No, that's called the participation trophy. That's just as insane as that concept is. If I just work hard, I deserve to get. No, if you work hard, you worked hard. But the results, the fruit is what we need to look at. So yeah, cool. You accomplished this. But let's bring ourselves back and go, what was the process in order for you to get there? So the difference between achievement and success. Earl Nightingale has a great quote. Achievement is just hitting that end result. I can cheat, put steroids in my body, and win a race. Is that success?
No.
You start saying, I don't know how to answer that. Success, the definition that we go by, is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. So the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. That's why we focus on progress. That's why we quantify it. Because if I sit there and go, I want to lose 10 pounds. Well, first off, lose is a negative. Subconscious mind only understands positives, right? So instead of being 200, I am 190. Now, all of a sudden, I look at that gap from 200 to 190. If I weigh 197 and you ask me, how are you doing in your goal? Oh, still far away. But if I say, hey, you were 200, now you're 197. How are you doing in your goal? You can actively and comfortably say, I'm 30% there. I'm making progress. The actions I'm taking are getting me where I want to go. So I don't have to freak out. I don't have to overwork. I don't have to try to do more because now I feel like I'm in a rush. Look, the actions are working. Take a step back. You're doing well. I work with people all the time when we review their 90-day goal rush and their impact report. These are tools that we use when we coach. My favorite thing is when they're like, not as bad as I thought I was. Jeff, don't laugh too hard. I wasn't talking about you.
We've had conversations before where Matt has said I need to tattoo that to my forehead.
Because especially if you're a high performer, you're likely highly critical, right? That kind of comes together and you never are doing enough. And that's usually the motivation that usually honestly comes from a wound. That's usually not a good source of that motivation, which that's where we get to the root cause. And those are for the private calls. But as we navigate out of that into this concept of high performance, we're trying to prove ourselves. Trying to prove yourself is going to lead to a bad situation. It's going to lead to burnout. It's going to lead to a loss because what are you proving yourself to? The other people around you? That's what high performers do. They compare themselves to others. Even if they're like unintentionally, they do it. So if you're the fastest slow person, does that make you fast? No, it makes you not slow. If I'm not a bad husband, does that make me a good husband? No. If I'm saying I don't beat my wife, that does not make me a good husband. That might qualify me as not a bad husband. Our bar, the standard has been set so confusingly low that we're like, I showed up to work 5 days this week. I deserve a raise. What? Like, that's how this works. I called a client. I deserve the business. No, you need to go earn it. And it needs to be part of it. And that earning it is what makes it worth getting it at the end. So we have to focus on the progress, value the process, and take the time to do it. One of the reasons why people benefit so much when they use their planner with us and they set their week the way we say to set their week is because change is inevitable and growth is intentional. They are seeing the intentional actions they are taking to get where they want to go. One time when I was in college, I was freaking out because I was like, man, I'm not doing enough to get where I need to go. So I wanted to do more. So I was told by a mentor to create what's called a victories list. And I would be forced every single day to rethink through my day and put all the victories on my little Excel spreadsheet, 5 at least per day, that is getting me closer to where I want to go. All of a sudden, going to class made sense. Prior to this, it was like, why am I going to class? I just want to go get a job. Well, if I take advantage of this time to go to class, when it's time to go get a job, which I never ended up getting a job, we just started businesses. But when I take time to go do whatever I'm doing next, I actually have something of value to bring. Again, the process and progress is what we try to avoid. We want instant gratification. We do not want to delay anything. We want it all right now. But I'm telling you, if you get it all right now, watch someone win the lottery and see how that impacts their life. It doesn't end well.
Right.
Well, Matt, one of the things that I love about your approach is you're just so touchy-feely and encouraging, and you never say it like it is. And
yeah.
So if you're looking for that kind of coaching, Matt Granados is not your guy.
Yeah. So here's the philosophy behind that. There's a difference between being nice and being kind. And people mistake this, and it destroys relationships. Yep. What a nice person does is they see that there's something in your teeth and they don't laugh at it. What a kind person does is says, hey, there's something in your teeth. We are called to be kind, not nice. But when we confuse those two, all of a sudden a nice person will let someone kind of die on the side of the road because someone else is going to take care of it. Where a kind person, which we read about, will stop with that person and say, hey, let me take you in. That's what kindness is. Yeah. That's what we need to focus on. I've come to learn we've become cowards in being kind. We will not speak truth to each other because we don't want to be hurt. And it has nothing to do, although we pretend it does, with the other person. Because if you truly love someone, you will be honest with them sacrificially, regardless of what that will do with you. There's a great story, an interview, actually, Penn from Penn and Teller's talking about it. He's an atheist, right? Diehard atheist. And he says, one of the most frustrating things is my Christian friends who won't, be evangelical to me. They won't evangelize to me. And one of his friends said, well, yeah, we know you don't want to hear it. He said, look, if you truly believe what you believe and you're willing to not tell me, how evil of a person are you? And that has hit me so hard on why it's important for us to be comfortable having conversations and saying, Jeff, I'm not saying this to hurt you, man. I'm saying this because I love you. And I'm not going to let you just go by it because that's an easier out for me. It has nothing to do with the other people. We masquerade it as, but it's a very selfish action to be nice over kind when truth has to be spoken.
Yeah. Good words. Good words. Mm-hmm. Matt, as we get ready to wrap up here, there's been so much good content with your comments and your approach here. If I'm a listener and I'm a entrepreneurial business owner, small business owner, someone in a position of leadership, why would I need someone like you or your organization? What are the things that should come to mind and go, hey, I really need to look into this a little bit further?
Yeah, the way I talk to people in general, anyone who's listening to this, individual, organization, we have levels for everybody. You can get a $34 planner. You can be part of our $10,000 coaching program, right? Like, it doesn't matter. We can work with whatever budget you work on. But the question I ask is, think about what's going on in your life. And what's the first thing that pops in your head when I say, what is going on and what's stopping you from getting from where you are to where you want to go? So as you're thinking of that thing, if you email me, mattg@lifepulseinc.com, I will get our team to help create a customized solution. If you email me that thing, tell me what you heard us on, shoot us an email. Here's what my issue is, and we will offer you over that solution. Now, why do we do it that way? Is because I know that our solutions can help whatever problem is because they're anchored in truth. They transcend work. It's not just about what I want them to do. Now, the overall issues is if you or your team has more to offer than you know you're experiencing, if you're not living your life to the highest level, if you think the way you're living is leading to burnout, but you want more out of it, those are the people that should reach out to us. If you're watching this going, man, my life is so good, and you're part of those 95% of self-aware people who are really 85% of the problem, because only 10% of them are self-aware, then I'm not for you. Not at all. And I don't know who is, honestly. You're good to go. If you got it figured out, this is not for you. But if you're sitting there going, I feel there's a better way. I feel like my marriage could be better. I feel like physically I can be better. I feel like spiritually I can be better. And professionally, I feel like I could be better. Or your team can. Those are the people who should reach out to us so we can create that, give you an option, and then figure out which fits best, right? Is it just jumping on our free call on Fridays, or is it coming into our group coaching called OPC, our coaching calls twice a month? Is it one-on-one coaching? Is it just going through our LP? We're not here to push you towards one way or the other. We're here to offer you some option because the world is failing and it's failing fast. And we want to try to help people experience it to the level we're called to.
Well, and we didn't get into the details of this related to goals, but your goals that you set up are not just professional goals. They're professional, right. They're relational, they're physical, and you deal with those each on a quarterly basis. So it's really the whole person, not just the person at work.
And the reason for that specifically is because we cannot make unnecessary sacrifices in one area to get to the other, because that leads to a life of regret. So the concept of just grind it out, or I'm going to work now so I can spend time with my kids later. Those are the people who hire me to fix the problem because their kids don't want to spend time with them. There's a way to do it at the same time now. We don't have to wait to live life. We are called to live life now. We're called to rest in where we are. And that's exactly what our system does. We refocus our faith exactly where it needs to be. And that's not refocus our faith from a religious sense, because I tell people all the time, religion is based on faith. Faith is not based on religion. Faith is what has built religion. Faith is what we need to focus. And where is our faith being placed? That's the direction we're going. And how do we help people redirect it where it needs to be to get exactly where they want to go?
Yeah. And Matt, I guess what I would say to wrap this up is that if you're a business owner, if you're a professional, if you're an individual that needs to open up to their own vulnerability, if I can say that, in other words, in order to take this first step, you do have to be vulnerable with yourself and say that I need a better way. And this could be part of the the answer. And so just taking that first step. What was your email address again?
mattg@lightpulseinc.com. And if you just email mattg@lightpulseinc.com, you'll get access to a weekly email we send out and other free stuff. Like I said, it's just our way to be able to help people who are like, hey, I need something. We'll get you into action right away. Christy, kind of like you and I were talking about in the discovery phase, is how do we give someone something to do to start right now while we're figuring out the best path? There's a good path based on what we have and what we know right now. And when you know nothing, usually an action is better than no action, right? But when you have an idea of where you want to go, then we can customize for where you're supposed to be.
Good stuff, Matt. We appreciate you being on today. As we wrap this up, we have a special segment that we call Rapid Fire that we want to put you through. So I have a series of questions just so people can get to know Matt a little bit better.
This was not in the email to say, hey, here's what we're going to do.
We like to surprise our guests. So question number one, Matt, what is your superpower?
My superpower would be the desire to understand others.
Okay. The last book you read or listened to, and it can't be the Bible.
Oh, man, you took out all of it. Honestly, I don't spend a ton of time reading books outside of the Bible at this point.
Okay.
But I would say the last book that I read or listened to would have been re-listening through Atomic Habits, which we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
That was a couple months ago.
Okay. That's actually on my wish list on Audible, so I need to download it. What is your guilty pleasure song on your Spotify playlists?
Oh, my guilty. It's going to be a Forrest Frank song of some sort, right?
Okay.
Anything from Good Day.
Hey, my kid's going to go see him tonight.
Oh,
my wife went and said it was the best concert she's ever seen. It is amazing.
I have no idea who that is. I need to check that out. So
you got it now.
Okay. Salty or sweet?
Salty always.
Okay. Matt, you come to this 5-way corner intersection.
Yeah.
And you need gas.
Mm-hmm.
And on each corner, on each one of the different corners, there's a QT, a Buc-ee's, a Love's, a Casey's, and a Come and Go.
Yeah.
Where do you go?
Wawa.
Oh. That's from Philly. I'm from Philly, so Wawa is going to get me where I want to go. Honestly, the first thought was Buc-ee's, but QT just works every time.
Yeah,
it's consistent. It's not too big. It's not too. I don't need everything. Like I don't need a new wheel balance, right? Like I don't need all of that in this moment. Yeah, like it's cool to go. Like we always anytime there's a Buc-ee's with the kids, we stop, right? But honestly, I think it would be a QT. They've got it down pretty quick. I know where to go. I know what to get. It's consistent. I'm ready to go. So QT's the go. I'll go with that wholehearted. Now, Christy, if Wawa's an option, out of just respect to the Northeast roots, I'm in. Always.
I will say that Matt lives in the St. Louis area, and every time we drive from the east to Tulsa and come down 44, as soon as we see the QT on the, on the west side of St. Louis, it's like, okay, we just got 6 hours to go to get home.
You're there.
So,
you're here, baby.
So, well, Matt, thanks so much for joining us today. Sara, do you want to kind of take us out on this?
Yeah. If you have any questions for us, or if you have an idea for another podcast, please email us at podcast@cckcpa.com. We'd also like to thank CCK Strategies for sponsoring us, for getting this podcast going. Thank you to Christy Porter for being our awesome producer. Thanks to my husband, Robert. Man, I sounded real country when I said that, didn't I?
You always sound country.
So my husband, Robert, for making that fantastic intro and outro music. Thanks to Clarence with Tulsa Internet Marketing Services for getting us all together and lined out so when we download our podcasts. And then thanks to Natalie Renfro for getting all of our social media together. Thank you so much, girl. And next time, you're going to listen to us and you're going to find out who's on the mic.
The information provided on this podcast is for general informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute accounting, tax, legal, or financial advice. While we strive to provide accurate and up-to-date information, laws and regulations change and individual circumstances vary. Always consult with a qualified CPA or professional advisor before making any financial or business decisions. The views expressed by the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of any organizations they are affiliated with. Listening to this podcast does not create a client-accountant relationship. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge and agree to those terms. And that's a wrap for this episode of Two CPAs in the Mic. If you found today's episode helpful, please subscribe, share, and leave us a review. Have questions or ideas for a topic? Reach out. We'd love to hear from you. Email us at podcast@cckcpa.com.